Perfect. So I just want you to know that obviously, if ever you are curious as to what one of the convenings looks like, all the convenings are recorded and put onto our Facebook and YouTube page. And so you're always welcome to get the information if ever missing a meeting. With today, we have the other side of employment, knowing that our world looks a little bit different than it once did when it comes to some of the facets behind employment. And so we have some great guest speakers that you'll be able to pick their brains as to what that looks like today. So that being said, let's get into the fun. All right. So as you saw in the chat, Mary dropped in a quick link for you to sign in today. So if you would be so kind to click the link and fill out the form, it takes a minute, if that. Just want to make sure that we have everyone documented today. So let's continue on. With regard to this year's theme at SDMFC, it's all about moving military families forward. So you'll hear that MMFFSD a few times, as we're really trying to make an emphasis that obviously the military family unit is only as strong as all the pieces and parts of it. And so making sure that we're providing diversity when it comes to topics and guest speakers is why you'll hear from some of the speakers today that'll be sharing basically a lot of information about how military spouses and perhaps military dependents, as well as a service member themselves, can get opportunities to find employment. So continuing to move forward, you'll see that we have SDMFC's membership. And right now we're at 30 plus organizations. And if your organization is not connected yet, I would be glad to talk to you about it. Or you'll see that in the link portion, there's just a small application that we look for individuals to help support our activities by telling us a little about themselves. And so moving ahead, if this is one of your first virtual meetings, how in the world did you get by COVID without being involved with one? But if that is the case, we just want to remind you of a few of the following. So when it comes to the video, I know that some of you are able to show your faces. We love to see faces whenever possible, especially when we're going to do some breakout rooms. When you're in breakout rooms, we encourage you to connect, network, and try to meet someone new. And then finally, when it comes to the chat box, we are looking for you to drop your questions. And today, when we have our breakout rooms, we're looking for you to provide some insights into some of the discussion points that we have for you today. We won't be utilizing Jamboard today, but there's always some fun there. So I'm going to move us ahead. And so I'd like to actually introduce one of SDMFC's coordinating council members, Akia Isom from Military One Source as well. So Akia, can you tell us what we're going to be up to today?
Good morning, everyone. As Danny said, I'm Akia Isom, and this is our first icebreaker, our first activity for today. So we're going to put you in some breakout rooms, and we want you to share your name and your agency, if any, and then your status or any connection. Like, are you, military connected? Are you, a community member? Share your status. And then the question that we have for you all is, what creative ways have you seen military dependents explain gaps in employment? And so if you are a military dependent, if you're a military spouse and you had some gaps in employment, we'd love for you to go ahead and share that with us. So soon you'll be put into some breakout rooms, and don't forget, introduce yourself and then tell us what creative ways you've seen military dependents explain gaps in employment, so we can launch those breakout rooms.
Yes. So you'll have 5 minutes to connect, to talk, and let's get creative, because we always understand that gaps in employment happen. So yeah, we want to log that. So when you go into your rooms, please select one person that will write what was shared in the chat in the future. So have a person ready to scribe, essentially. So you'll see the rooms pop open right now, and all you'll have to do is just connect to the room. So happy connecting, and we'll see you back here probably about 15 after. Perfect. So welcome back, one and all. Hopefully you had some time to connect to other organizations, get to meet a few new faces. And as Akia mentioned, if your scribe can please put in the chat what's the most effective way that you've seen a military dependent explain the gaps in employment. We want to learn best practices here. So please share what that creative explanation may have been. So That being said, I'm going to move us ahead in today's convening purpose. So with regard to, as we talked about a little bit earlier, this is all about moving military families forward. When it comes to employment, we want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for folks to get plugged in, despite knowing that a lot of times it's challenging environment to get connected. You're going to learn about some of the challenges or barriers with regard to, especially military spouses, what they see and seek. You're going to see some providers today talk about the active duty service member and their transition to veteran or civilian status. And then, you're going to learn about, there are, especially in San Diego and in some of these groups are national, just opportunities that exist by just picking up a phone or reaching out to someone. So that's always the key to get someone included in on. So please, let's jump to the next. I want you to always know that every convening has a fact sheet dedicated to it. And so if you haven't ever gone to the links that are at the bottom of our PowerPoints, on SDMFC's website, we do collect, different quotes, statistics, information that can be relayed for you who may be in need of sharing that information in the future. And we want to give a shout out to Blue Star Families, as they have a wonderful infographic to kind of talk about some of the challenges, especially for military spouses. So without further ado, let me at least set the table. As our first guest speaker is going to be coming forward today. So Michael, is it Dwyer or Dryer? But he's from
Dyer.
Dyer. Perfect. Okay, from legislative aid. He's a legislative aide from the office of Assembly Member Rudy Salas. And what he's going to be sharing on today, or providing some visibility on, is the fact that there are oftentimes the case where military spouses in particular have challenges when trying to bring their credential from one duty station to the next. And in California, we have our own parameters behind that. And so Michael today is going to provide an opportunity to kind of get connected as to what the situation currently looks like and what bill is being put forward to hopefully help support this situation. So if you'd be so kind, Michael, unmute yourself and welcome to SDMFC.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here and talk to you all about this great bill that we've been working on. So AB 107 is our second attempt at expanding licensure options for military spouses in California. Last year, we did a more limited version of the bill. We were told, we don't want to do it piecemeal. So we said, okay, great, then we're going to expand it. So what AB 107 does is it expands the temporary licensure program for military spouses to cover all licenses provided by the state of California. The program would allow a military spouse who comes to California to say, hey, I have a license in another state, I meet all the requirements, I don't have any judgments against me, no malpractice suits, and then the board will say, okay, here's a temporary license that's good for 12 months. During that time, that gives the spouse working time to finish the requirements for their full California license. And then the goal is within those 12 months, they get their full California license, they're fully licensed, but in the meantime, they can still continue working and searching for jobs, and they're not underemployed and unemployed. One thing that we found, and we've worked really closely with the Department of Defense on this bill, is that military spouses are more than twice more likely to be underemployed and unemployed compared to their colleagues in any other system. And it's not up to military spouses when they move, when their family is forced to move. That's the sacrifice they make for helping serve our country. So we want to make it as easy and streamlined as possible for a military spouse to come to California, to get a license, to find gainful employment and continue supporting the family in the way that they want to. Daniel, can you put up the map slide? Thank you. So this is a map from the U.S. Department of Labor. What it shows is military or license portability for military spouses across the U.S. California is one of the worst places in the U.S. for military spouses who are licensed. We are on par with Tennessee and Alabama, and the only state that has worse licensure portability for military spouses is Connecticut. And so that's where California sits compared to the other 50 states in the union. What AB 107 does is it will move California over to the yellow. So we'll be on par. We won't be green yet, but it'll be a significant step in the right direction. And it's something that the Department of Defense, all the military branches are looking at in their basing decisions is what's the employment opportunity looking like for our service members, veterans, and their spouses. And especially with the new basing decisions coming out, and we know how much economic support the military gives California and our local economies, we want to make it as open and easy for the military to say, hey, we're going to put a new base here. We're going to put another Space Command station here in California because we would have such an open system for military spouses. And so, thank you. So yeah, right now the temporary licensure program only covers about 11 boards and licenses. They're very limited. They don't hit the vast majority of what military spouse employment looks like. We're talking, speech language pathology board is included, which is very niche. Not a lot of speech language pathologists, military spouses out there. We're missing boards like psychiatry, therapy, psychology, cosmetology. We include things like all veterinarian licenses, dentists, dental hygienists. We really want to expand the scope because the data shows that right now we're hitting a very limited audience in California for military spouses who have licenses. And more than a third of military spouses require licensure for their line of work. So we want to make sure, and California also has by far the largest amount of military families compared to all the other 50 states. This is where the majority are stationed. And so, yeah, this is just part of our effort to make sure that we are supporting our military families as best as possible and that they're not, seeing huge barriers to employment when they come to our state.
Thank you for sharing. So, Michael, I have a few follow-ups for you, if you don't mind. So I was looking over parts of the bill, and the first question that I have, well, you kind of alluded to it, but I just want to make sure that this is hammered home. So you had talked about a temporary license, and so if a spouse relocates from Virginia and comes to San Diego, California, obviously would be then eligible for a temporary permit with these provisions that you're affording. And the other key aspect that I wanted to make mention is that eventually the state is still looking for them to get credentialed, and there's fees associated with that, correct?
Yeah, there's still some license fees that are the same across for all the boards. That is an issue that California just kind of faces in general. We have some of the most burdensome fees for our boards and licenses in the country. And that's something that's being worked on the side, as well as compacts. The goal, hopefully, is sometime in the future, California, lowers its kind of castle walls down a bit to allow the people coming into California to get licensed easier and expand those businesses that way. But in the meantime, the temporary license program, especially for military spouses who don't get a say, they don't have time to prepare usually to come to California. And so those fees will still exist, but the goal is that if they're getting their license on time, they get their temporary license, they can find employment that will cover those fees much more easily than if they're underemployed and working a service industry when they have their master's in psychology. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Perfect. And so correct me if I'm wrong. So in this bill, there may be provisions so that a spouse may have the ability to get these fees covered by an appropriations council, or is that possible in the future?
So that part of the bill is more technical side.
Okay.
Just for context, the Board of Accountancy has a separate special fund that's in statute. And so that was a piece we had to put in the bill because otherwise the money from the fees to the accountancy board were going to get weirdly appropriated. And that was just a little technical mishap that we had to throw in there to clear it up and make sure that the boards are getting their money where they needed it.
No problem.
Any laws.
I have one final question, and it's a fun question. It's where is the bill in the process at this point for our audience to know?
Yeah, so the bill made it through its final policy committee in the Senate. So right now it's sitting in the Senate Appropriations Committee. We've had unanimous support the entire way through. And the opposition we've had from some boards is just technical questions they need clearing up to make sure that they can execute the program. Everyone's backing the bill right now. And so really the biggest thing that we could use help on is sending letters to the Senate Appropriations Committee in support of the bill, showing the need for it, because we're targeting all the boards. It significantly raised the costs from last year's bill. I'm still working with the staff to see if we can change something to help cut costs here and there. But that's the final hurdle, is saying we have this giant windfall this year. It's a one-time cost to get the regulations in place and the systems in place for these temporary licenses. And it's something that's going to pay dividends down the line for years to come. So I think this is a really great investment. And that's just, we need help making sure that Senate Appropriations Committee hears from everyone else too, not just me, that this is a great investment for our military families.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. I know that Michael is definitely available. We'll have his contact information in the slide deck so that you'll all be able to circle back to him should you have additional follow-ups. But Michael, please give our best to the Assembly member, and always welcome back whenever possible.
Yep, thank you so much for the invitation. And yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, feel free to email, reach out. I'm more than happy to work with all of you on the bill. So thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
All right. So as I mentioned, we got a fierce lineup for everyone today. And so, Michael helped to kind of allude to what does the picture look like for military families to consider. And oftentimes, if you go back to our fact sheet and look at things like the Blue Star Families Report, I think everyone in this audience is, well educated that the military spouses have a lot of different challenges, and one of them is to consider, can my credential move over? So, if this is something that resonates with you, all we can do is try to bring more visibility and highlight these different programs, bills, and everything happening around the community. But it's up to you to kind of make your stamp on it. So thanks again, Michael. And next speaker up is going to be a friend of SDMFC, a longtime friend, which is Mr. Stanley Beeson. Stan Beeson is from Fleet and Family Support Center, has been involved with a lot of the transitional programs that are out there. And so, Stan, are you able to unmute so we can say hello and get you started on today? Perfect. All right. Well, without further ado, I'd like everyone to obviously provide a warm SDMFC welcome to Stan Beeson.
Well, thank you so much, Danny, for inviting me. It's a privilege and an honor to speak with the collaboration this morning. So, as Danny mentioned, my name is Stan Beeson, and I'm the contract manager for the Transition Assistance Management Program at the Fleet and Family Support Center in San Diego. And so part of that job is working with military spouses to find employment, just like what we were talking about in the previous speaker, folks coming in from other places outside California, and now the spouse is looking for employment. But a large portion of what we do also is preparing sailors to transition successfully into the civilian job market. And so I'm going to speak to you this morning about a program that many people don't know exists. Is often referred to as the best kept secret in all of DoD. So, and it is the SkillBridge program. So, Danny, could you go ahead and put the next slide up, please? And so this is a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to try and keep it as streamlined as possible because I know we have other speakers as well. Next slide. So, slide 3 is what we want to. Can everyone see that?
We'll make sure that it's visible and everyone will have the ability to take the slides following. But if I don't know if I can enlarge it anymore in terms of the actual print. So Stan, are you able to work with this?
Yeah, you know, I have it on my computer, and so okay. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll let you know when they go to the next slide. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So the first thing I want to tell you about the SkillBridge program, that it is not a entitlement. So this is not something that you know, every transition service member is entitled to participate in. But what it is an opportunity to work with an employer, private or state, city, even federal agencies. And the idea is that you would be able to do an internship of sorts, working with an employer to prepare yourself for future employment. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to gain a skill set. Maybe you're doing something in the military and you want to do something totally different from what you've done the last 4 years or the last 20 plus years. And this will allow you to do that. And some of the programs carry with it a certification that you'll walk away with an actual certification of some sort. And other programs don't have that formal process. It's more of just a what we call OJT. But the maximum is 180 days of participation. So in order to qualify for the program, you have to have served in the military for at least 180 days. But 180 days is also the maximum amount of time of participation. Military spouses are eligible to participate. And so it's not just for the active duty service member transitioning, but spouses can do it as well. On the next slide, talks about eligibility. So remember, this is a DoD, Department of Defense program, and it's not just a U.S. Navy program. So for the Navy, there is what we call a NAV admin that was written back in 2015. It's still good, and even though it's been 6 years, we're still using this NAV admin. So you can see that NAV admin 2/15 is what you would refer to for eligibility purposes for the Navy. The next slide. So this is what the NAV admin consists of and what it talks about. So it outlines that what I was just talking about. There are some qualifications you have to do. One, you have to be receiving an honorable discharge or a general discharge under honorable conditions. You have to at least have 180 days of service. There are some other things that you'll need to do, like completing your transition requirements before participating. Slide 4. So Navy participation eligibility. So having successfully completed the latest physical fitness assessment, and then be recommended for advancement or promotion to and retention on the most recent evaluation or fit rep. Officers use fit reps, enlisted use evaluations. And as I mentioned, having completed the TAP program, the Transition Assistance Program. And that is mandatory for everyone who is an 06, which would be a Navy captain or an Army colonel, down to a seaman recruit. Next slide. So these are more administrative items covered under the NAV admin. So talking about participation skills. Remember, this, as I mentioned, is a DoD program, and there is an ethics course that you have to take because if authorized to participate in this program, you're going to be officially on TAD orders away from your command for whatever length of time that your command authorizes you to participate. And that could be up to 6 months. And so you're going to be getting your full military pay, and you're not going to be associated with your command anymore. You're going to be away in a TAD status, meaning you won't have to muster with your command. You won't have to phone in. You'll be working directly with that employer. And so as a result of that, they want you to take this ethics course to be eligible to continue the program. So to get started, basically one would just visit the DoD SkillBridge website, which is the one you see there, https dodskillbridge.usalearning.gov. And on the website, there is a map of the United States, and it allows you to place your cursor over a specific city. And when you click on that city, it should pull up all the authorized employers in that particular area of that city or that particular area of the country. And so that's a great way if you're thinking about moving someplace else out of San Diego in order to do your skill bridge. Like say, for instance, you plan on going to San Antonio to live after you leave the Navy. So this will allow you to click on San Antonio and it will show you any authorized employers or agencies participating. So that's a wonderful feature on the website. But the most important thing here is, for the Navy at least, in order for you to participate in the program, that employer or agency must be listed as an authorized member on the SkillBridge website. Next slide. So if you found an employer that is willing to take you on and but they're not listed, then that employer is encouraged to go to the SkillBridge website, and there's a link on the website for potential employers to become an authorized employer. And so this explains how that works. And essentially, even when things are happening really well as far as communication goes between the SkillBridge folks and the potential employer, it's going to take no less than 60 days for that vetting process to complete. And so, if you're a sailor and, you have 7 months left in the Navy before your end of service date, well, if you're trying to get an employer who's not already on the list, this might eat into your potential time. So just something to be aware of. So how to apply? Basically, certain services have certain uniform processes to do it. For instance, the Air Force, they have a procedure to do it. In the Navy, you just simply submit a standard Navy request kit, it's called a 1306, and you submit it to your chain of command, and your commanding officer would be the person who is authorized to approve you to participate in this program. And it could be someone other than your commanding officer, as long as that person in your chain of command is an 05 or above. So for instance, if your department head is not the CO, but he's the department head, and as long as he or she is a commander in the Navy, they're authorized to approve your participation. Next slide. So command requests. So contact your command career counselor. Every command that has a command master chief should have a command career counselor. And you can work with that person to make sure that your eligibility is on point, and they should be able to assist you in enrolling in the program. And if you have any questions, each base should have a POC for the program. So I am the POC for Naval Base San Diego, and sailors assigned to Naval Base San Diego can contact me and ask, whatever questions they may have about the process. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm completely outside the approval process. I'm just simply here as the SkillBridge point of contact to inform the sailor, inform commands on the process. Next slide. And that's the overview. And basically, that's how the SkillBridge program works. And so it's the idea is that it should be little to no cost to the transition service member. Some employers require use of the GI Bill, but as long as the sailor goes into that situation with his or her eyes wide open, that's what matters. But it should be little to no cost to a sailor. They can spend up to 6 months in an internship, and the expectation is after the internship is over, that employer would bring them aboard as an employee. There's not a requirement though, but that is the expectation. And so for now, if the employer doesn't have any billets open At that point in time, the idea is that they would contact a fellow type of employer and provide you a recommendation to that employer. So that's basically what the system is designed for.
Well,
Thank
thank you, Stan. I know that I have a few follow-up questions, but I also ask our audience that if you have a follow-up question, to please type it in the chat. So while to make time for them, Stan, I have two questions. Hopefully you can answer for me. One is, I think that oftentimes these programs seem abstract because they don't exactly connect the dots about, who might that employer be. And so my question is more so, can you share any past employers who've been involved, and perhaps what types of jobs were being filled by the service member as examples?
Great question, Danny. We've come up with a locally produced document that shows some authorized employer partners here in the local San Diego area. And so I'm sure everyone recognizes Anderson Heating and Plumbing, right? They've been around in San Diego for, I want to say, 25 plus years. So they are actively participating in the program and have been for several years now. And I just had a young sailor who was interested in connecting with them. And they said, oh, you know what, we're really full right now. So, but that was an example of Anderson Heating and Plumbing. But the local VA, for instance, is also in that program. And so they have a program called WarTech. And what that is they train you and certify you on how to become a rater, right? So when military members leave the service, they have their medical record examined by the VA, and the VA determines a rating on a disability. And so that's an example of what these raters do for the VA. And so again, that would be that training that they would provide you is completely free, and you would be able to avoid the process of going through USA Jobs, because you would have that basic certification, and you would be able to start immediately after you leave the Navy or the service as a rater for the VA. So that's an example of a government agency and a private employer.
Perfect. And you did get a question, which was, is the spouse required to have a service member's commander approve their participation in SkillBridge?
Yes, that is correct.
I have one more question, which, unless anyone else in the chat would like to type something in, my last question for you, Stan, is, we understand that things need to get processed, right? It just doesn't happen overnight for some of these types of programs. And so what is a recommendation that you might have for the service member to start this process? And then secondly, an employer who's interested, how far out if they're trying to fill a role or position, should they be trying to contact or communicate to the SkillBridge program?
That's a great question, Danny. So I personally recommend to transition service members start getting serious about the application process at about the 8th month mark prior to your EAOS. So that allows you to, cross all your T's and dot your I's, do all the research necessary, because you, as the transition service member, you have to go out and do the legwork to find an employer that is a quote unquote good fit for you for what you want to do when you leave the Navy. And so you have to do that legwork and reach out, connect with that employer, talk with their HR folks, let them know you're interested in their program, nail down some specifics, right? So for instance, where is this going to take place, right? These are no cost PAD orders. So for instance, if the transition service member is going to go back to Kansas City, Missouri, well, that's where the internship would be, right? And so these are no cost orders. So the sailor would be on the hook to get him or herself to Kansas City. They would be on the hook for room and board, and they would be on the hook for meals, because they are going to continue to get their full military salary while they're enrolled in the program. So getting those items nailed down, how is it going to be administered? Is it 40 hours a week in person, or is it a combination of in person, virtual? What is it exactly? Who at the employer, at the agency, or whoever it is, who is the point of contact that the command can reach out to if they need to get in contact with you for whatever the reason? And so getting those things nailed down and having that information all, taken care of before you submit your process is a good way to go in order to get to a yes. So I recommend 8 months. That gives you 2 months to nail down those details, selecting the employer, nailing down all that, and allowing the transition service member to utilize the whole 180 days. But I will say this too, because I did mention it in my brief, that if you have what we call terminal leave, you have like 60 days of leave, right? That 60 days of leave you take must be within that 180-day time frame. So what you're not allowed to do is to take 60 days of terminal leave, then take 180 days of skill bridge. So whatever amount of leave you're taking, it has to be folded into that 180-day window.
Thank you. And I have 2 questions that popped, and I'll try to make these as brief as possible because I know we're going to have to move on in our program segments. But first one should be perhaps a quick answer, which is, if the job/employer is part of a trade union, does the service member participating in the program need to pay those dues? So that's the first one. Is that a yes or no, Stan?
That's a no.
Okay. And then the second one is essentially, do you find that most skill bridge opportunities are for officer level TSMs or for enlisted TSMs? We seem to see most of our TSMs who are utilizing skill bridge are officer level candidates.
Great question. And the short answer is both. I see all the time officers at the 05 level, which is a commander in the Navy, and all the way down to E3. But the average is an E5, E6 that I see.
Okay. Well, I appreciate, and I'm sure SDMFC appreciates your time. You had a few shout outs in the chat for those wanting to reconnect to you. So I'd invite you to always reconnect to the speakers. You'll see Stan's information as I guess I'll scroll to it later, but just know that, yeah, his information is listed on the SDMFC website, and the Skill Bridge program is something that if you haven't had a talk with a service member or spouse on, perhaps share this opportunity. So thank you again for your time today, Stan.
You're welcome.
All
Thanks,
right. Of course. So we're going to roll from one power speaker to the next power speaker to another power speaker. And this is actually going to be Power Tandem, which is a program that you should know about, which is Onward to Opportunity. And so today we're welcoming Joe or Joanna, as well as her program support on this project. And so, ladies, welcome to SDMFC, and you have the floor. So please tell us about what Onward to Opportunity is about.
Thank you so much, Daniel. This is so great to be here, everyone, and good morning. My name is Joanna Sansatera. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the program coordinator for Onward to Opportunity here in Southern California. I'm also an Air Force retiree. I spent about 33 years in the Air Force, and I'm a local San Diegan, which is unusual, but it happens. And I'm here with my program manager, Catherine Warren, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone, and it's great to be here. Joanna and I have made a wonderful team here in our San Diego community now for just shy of 4 years. We both love what we do, and we love not only being able to promote what our program does for our transitioning service members and veterans and military families as well, but bringing our community and being able to give back. Like Joanna, I too am a veteran. I spent the majority of my adult life on active duty in the United States Marine Corps, so I get what it feels like to go through that transition as a service member as well. Joanna, right back to you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Catherine. Yeah, love being this team here in SoCal. Go ahead to the next slide, Daniel, if you would. So we did the introductions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the IVMF, and I'll explain what that is. And then I'm going to give you all an overview of our program and how we work with our sailors and Marines here in Southern California. And then a little bit deeper dive into some of our learning pathways. And so you can go to the next slide. So our organization here in Southern California is Onward to Opportunity, and we are a career preparation and employment nonprofit organization, and we fall under the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, which is located at Syracuse University. Daniel, I know this is a Syracuse shirt. I should be wearing a USD shirt, but it ain't happening today. So, so we are just one organization that falls under the IVMF, better known as the IVMF. And just yesterday, we were celebrating our 10-year IVMF anniversary. So we're really stoked about that. A couple of the other under our portfolio, you'll see we have America Serves, a community-based support service, and then we have entrepreneurship, which is really huge. That's how the IVMF started, with a couple of programs for business assistance for our veterans, spouses, and a lot of our programs within that portfolio are at no cost as well. So if you have an interest, by all means, check it out. Additionally, what we do, and we're really proud of, if you're a data geek, we do research. We have a research arm that is phenomenal. We partner with folks like Blue Star Families, Wounded Warrior Project, Travis Manion Foundation, a lot of different organizations to provide assistance with data to help them get better and more focused. And in addition to that, a lot of our research is presented to folks on Capitol Hill. So it really assists in helping to make those laws and regulations that affect our military community, and hopefully for the better. So if you're a data geek, I would absolutely go to that website and check it out. Next slide. And this kind of gives you just a little bit more in-depth detail about what the IVMF does. If you want to take a look at that. Again, I would say the website has a lot of really good information. Please take a look at it. And maybe Catherine, you would put the IVMF website in the chat. That would be super. Next slide. Let's get into IVMF by the numbers. This is amazing. In our 10 years, we have grown and scaled a lot of our different programs. And you could see that for Onward to Opportunity, more than 55,000 folks have been enrolled since the start of our program. And also the part of our program is the employment piece. It's a very large part of it, in addition to our certification piece, which I'll get into in a minute. But we've had some really great and wonderful outcomes for this organization, Onward to Opportunity. And again, with our entrepreneurship, actually a couple of years ago, we had VWISE here. That's Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. Boy, that's a mouthful. That was an amazing, amazing gathering of female veterans and female spouses getting together to learn how to put their business together, grow their business, or just sustain their business. And that was all focused on women. So a lot of really great numbers there. We're data driven for sure. Next slide, please. Again, some more numbers for our community-based services. We're really proud of that. A lot of our community-based service work currently right now is done on the East Coast, and we're helping a lot of different organizations across the nation as well. And then again, our research and analytics is a powerhouse. We've added a few more researchers as well because we're just kind of growing exponentially in that way. And next slide. So this is the fun stuff, right, Catherine? This is a great segue because Stan is kind of one of the first gentlemen that I worked with when I started this position, and we work a lot supporting Navy Region Southwest and all the sailors there, including our Marines here in Southern California. But our program falls under the Skill Bridge program, the DoD Skill Bridge program. However, we're a little different. We are not a typical internship. So keep that in mind. We do fall under Skill Bridge, but we're not a typical internship. And I'll explain in a second. So we serve active duty folks that are within 180 days of their separation from active duty. We encourage folks to apply to our program 9 to 12 months out, those active duty folks. National Guard and reservists are also eligible. As long as they are not on an active duty order, they are eligible. Veterans with an honorable discharge, as well as spouses of all those listed above. So we are definitely working with all that whole demographic. We focus and see more of our active duty transitioning service members coming over and their spouses. We have a mix of veterans in there and and reservists and guardsmen. So we really cover the whole gamut. And how we serve everybody, this is the meat and potatoes. What we do is we provide courseware certifications to our participants by way of online training, and they get the coursework, they get the certification for completing the coursework, and then we pay for the examination. So again, our program is at no cost, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but that's part of it. One of the things we also do is in collaboration with Hire Heroes USA, we help our folks with employment, which is really huge. They get the resume assistance, the mock interviews, and they get connected with our over 900 employer partners that are nationwide. And that's really incredible. And we've done some really phenomenal work with Hire Heroes USA. And what does the program require from our participants? Like I said, there is absolutely no cost. They do not have to use their GI Bill, their tuition assistance. It's free. What it does cost, though, is of course their time and effort. Commitment to the program, commitment to the coursework. It's kind of like an online college course. Our courses are robust for sure. And of course, responsiveness to our enrollment services team, all the folks at the IVMF and our local team here as well. That's in short, some of our overview. Catherine, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, Joanna, you hit a lot of it on the head, and the only thing that I want to emphasize is when we talk about certifications, we're talking about relevant in-demand certifications. So if a transitioning service member, veteran, military spouse were to pull up a job application or a job description, they could possibly see Security Plus required, PHR preferred, PMP required. And these are all certifications and learning pathways that we do provide. We also place a lot of emphasis on the fact that it's another hard skill set that they can put in their proverbial tool belt per se. And like that higher education, that college degree that goes with them, these certifications also go everywhere with them. I know earlier we had some conversation about portable licensure and with disciplines that do require licensure in each state. And while this isn't the same, the concept and thinking about being able to take something with you wherever you go is something that Joanna and I hit on heavily all the time. Thanks, Joe.
Oh yeah, thank you, Catherine. Next slide, please. We have About 8 cohorts here in Southern California, primarily 4 up or near Camp Pendleton, and then here in the San Diego area. Normally up to 75 students. We can have up to 75 students, and in some cases, we sometimes have a waiting list for these cohorts. And of course, you could see here, we have 18 installations. So within 5 years of O2O, we have really scaled big and fast. So if our transitioning service members and spouses are moving to another location where one of our O2O installations is in, then we can make that connection. There's also virtual online cohorts. So for those that are possibly going to Omaha, Nebraska, where you can see we do not have an O2O installation, they're still able to participate with Onward to Opportunity. So we have some flexibility there. The program length at each installation is different here in San Diego. What we require our folks to do is attend a 3-day in-class portion. Of course, this last year, we've moved it all to virtual, and we plan on getting back into face-to-face, and we're working that right now. So once they complete the 3 days, which is normally a Tuesday through a Thursday, our active duty folks go back to their command on Friday, and then the following Monday, all the students get access to their coursework. That's when they actually start the certification, study, and coursework. And they get 90 days to complete that. Once they complete it, then we will go ahead and purchase their exam, and they can schedule the exam for them. You could see the total numbers. We've worked with a lot of folks, really happy to assist folks in getting that hard skill set. So it really enables them to connect and get locked in with employment. Next slide. This kind of gives you a visual of just what we ask of our participants from the beginning. We do ask for an application, an O2O application to be filled out. And then we also work with our teams on the basis to ensure that they get the proper DoD Skill Bridge application paperwork as well. So the first thing that we ask them to do is this assessment, and basically it's a questionnaire that goes along with their application. So our folks in enrollment services can assist them in directing them to which certification will be best for them, align with them, with their career desires, etc. And the next thing, of course, is the 3-day course, Onward to Your Career. And then our learning pathway, or their learning pathway, which could be project management professional, human resources, etc. That's the 90 days. And then we'll connect them with Hire Heroes USA to assist with employment. And something new that's been added, Syracuse University is definitely a very big supporter of our veterans, have been for many, many years, and they are actually providing our folks with alumni support and services. So they actually become alumni of SU, which is phenomenal and fantastic. Next slide, please. So this is a deeper dive into the overview. What we do, those 3 days is, this is our own curriculum, and actually we're getting brand new curriculum right around the corner, right, Catherine? But we go over personal branding, thriving versus surviving. You can read everything there. And Catherine and I take great pride in creating and being creative in how we deliver our 3-day course. We have a lot of comments from our students that this has been one of the best courses. I feel better. This is great. I'm not as stressed out. We really like to show them the other side of that military gate, the civilian sector. Get them to know the language and start learning the language of the civilian sector, and get them to really understand that they have the skills already to make it in that world. So it's a little bit of building up and educating our folks. And then of course the online learning component, is next. When our folks start their coursework, they have their assigned advisors. So within those 90 days, if they have any issues with the coursework or questions about resources or anything, their advisor, along with Catherine and I, we work as a team, the three of us, will assist our folks with whatever they need. And of course, when they complete 30% of their coursework, then that's when we connect them with Hire Heroes USA. And Daniel, you can go to the next one. So on our website under Learning Pathways, you will see a full menu of all our courseware. This is phenomenal stuff. And I got to tell you that we are always looking at different tracks to incorporate that are becoming in demand. So we change it up every once in a while and add new things. But you could see we have our project management certifications, along with Six Sigma Green Belt and Yellow Belt, and then our human resources certifications. The APHR is an entry level, then there's a mid-level, and then the senior. And I got to tell you, the IT industry, of course, you all know this as well as I do, but there's not enough bodies to fill those positions, and there's all kinds of positions. And we have several certifications that do not require IT experience at all. So definitely something to look into. Catherine, do you want to speak to that?
No, thanks so much, Joanna. You know, and just to add from the previous slide there with some of the curriculum that we have, we really just capitalize and continue on the conversations that the transitioning service members have when they attend TPGS, TRS, or whatever transition program per branch of service that they attend. So there, it's almost like a continuum of what they go on. And, you know, in regard to the pathways and our cohorts, as far as like our percentages that we get, the majority of both installations here in Southern California are between 50 and 60% transitioning service members. A little heavier on the veteran percentage here in San Diego proper, where it's a little bit more equaled out up at the Camp Pendleton installation, but generally like a 30-20 split with veterans and military spouses. So we do get a good mix. And as Joanna mentioned earlier, we bring everybody together regardless of the certification pathway that they've chosen, simply because networking and mentorship begins in our classroom, whether it's a virtual classroom or we do have some face-to-face time together. And another method, I guess you could say, to our madness, by bringing our veterans and military spouses in, some of those folks are really accomplished at what they've been doing post-service or in their career while married to an active duty service member. And it's wonderful to watch the synergy and the mentorship start just right there in our classrooms. As it was mentioned earlier, we have folks participating from the 06 level all the way down to the E2, E3 level as well. And as we all know, once you step outside of the military, it's a different ballgame out there. So it's really just about supporting each other at that point. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. So the next slide I want to show you, last slide, employment. The next one. There we go. Since we're talking about employment, right? We want to give you some kind of performance for O2O, and nationwide, this is what we've been doing. We look forward to your questions. We look forward to assisting your sailors, your airmen, Marines, Coast Guard, everybody, soldiers, guardians, right? Okay. But if you have any questions, we're here to take them. Thank you so much, Daniel, for this opportunity to share our program.
Thank you for coming on today. So there's ample opportunity. Onward opportunity, comes with the name, right? So there's great opportunities for our spouses, our service members to get connected. I know that we're a little bit over in the program today, so I'm going to be cutting our break. But if you do need to use the restroom, welcome to utilize the restroom. But if you do have a question for Joanna, you're welcome to put that in the chat. I'm going to just push a few slides forward. But thank you, the Onward Opportunity team, for coming in today and sharing about what's happening in your neck of the woods. And so if you need their contact information in the future, it is there listed and it will be on our website as well. So thank you once again for coming in and sharing the different facets that you can offer. And I'm from being in a world of certifications, those are like gold. So if you're able to get someone connected, please consider connecting them.
Thanks, Daniel.
Of course. All right. So as mentioned, your coffee break, and let's just move forward because there's still more great speakers that we have for you today. But while some of the speakers are coming up, I'm going to ask you to do the following. In the chat, we want to know who's been impactful in your world when it comes to employment resources. So once again, San Diego, sometimes you can feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose. And so we realize there's a spectrum of different great providers out there, but we want to know who you have had personal exchanges with. So if you'd be so kind to list the top 3 that you have had impactful, successful employment support, then we would love to hear from you via the chat, and we'll try to take all those pieces and then put it into a resource sheet for you at a later point in time. And so my next speaker hopefully was able to hop on, as I know some tech issues were happening, but David Silva, are you available?
I am.
Perfect. Oh, goodness. All right. So I'll do your technology today, but SDMFC welcomes David Silva from the Department of Labor, the VETS program in particular, as the Assistant Director and the Investigator for California. So welcome, David, and please tell us about the USERA program.
Okay. I'm David Silva with the U.S. Department of Labor, the Veterans Employment Training Service. What we do is, among the many things that we do, you can look at our website, but we cover things like the Transition Assistance Program, TAP. Yep, that's us managing, along with the DoD and a couple of other federal departments, managing the contractors who help the military transition. We do USERA, which is why I'm here, the Uniform Services Employment Reemployment Rights Act. So getting into that, the idea there is, after you get your job, or maybe you join the military and you do a relatively short stint to 2 or 3 or 4 years, you go back to work. Under USERA, we are the ones who are going to look into claims of discrimination against the military for that service. So we cover veterans and also reservists. So ideally, you can go on to your military service, be gone for a couple of years, come back and have that job waiting for you, your civilian job from before you went. Now, we like to generally keep a 5-year cap on that, but that's a little bit flexible depending on certain situations, like you might have been injured and you're in the VA doing your recovery and all that other stuff. We look at the eligibility, so you have to have a veteran with an honorable discharge, or a reservist who is continuing their service and has some recent, like a deployment that caused the issue. There has to be some kind of like a DD-214 to connect with the end of the military service. So what we do is we end up investigating the different claims, talking to the claimant, finding out the information relative to that claim, and looking at the employer and investigating, pulling employer records and looking at those things that come with us to submit the claim and have the claim be, what was the actual violation against USERA? And if there's any evidence to prove that there was a violation, then we'd end up, talking to the employer, how do we make that person whole? how do we make that person, you know, back to where they were? If you're usually, we're going to talk about back pay. Sometimes it's a promotion that you missed while you were on deployment. That's something we call the elevator principle. So say, for instance, you and your coworker hired on relatively the same day, got generally the same good evaluations, and then you went off to your military duty. While you're gone, your coworker gets promoted, and you say, well, I was not promoted because of my military service. And we look at that. And we touch base with the employer and say, hey, this person should have been employed, should have been promoted as well. So let's go ahead and get him that corner office and have him promoted as well. We hope. Most of the time, the employers are pretty accommodating with us. Sometimes the talk with DOL vets is enough. And we do have a back and forth conversation, an open conversation. We try not to come in heavy handed, we're very amiable, but sometimes they just say, no, we're not going to do it. And we'll refer that claim over to the United States Attorney. And then they get a visit or a letter from the US Attorney where they look at our evidence and say, employer, now, government lawyers are involved. And you know how when the, US Attorney says, or the saying is, there's a federal case, well, there's usually enough evidence there to prove that case. And so you really don't want to be, as the employer, on the wrong end of that. There's really something grievously, wrong with what you did. And we give you time and time again, chance to correct whatever it was that, was in error. So if that doesn't work, if they just don't want to move their decision, then we push it above our heads and let the Attorney General and the U.S. attorneys take that conversation a little further along. See what else? It's not just about reemployment. We also look at promotions. We look at health insurance protection. You're actually supposed to get some health insurance while you're gone. You have the right to maintain the health insurance. Usually people do that because of their family members. So you have a private company, you would have to pay the premiums up to 102%, but at least you maintain that health insurance instead of switching over to the military health insurance that would be available to you wherever you are. But that's, something else that we look at. It could be a retirement scenario where you're gone for so many months or years, and that affects your civilian retirement clock. So we can visit and have that conversation. We look at the status. It's not just the promotion, but the status. Let's say, for instance, you and your colleague, again, same situation, you go on deployment, he or she maybe doesn't get a promotion, but they get a better parking spot now, or company car, something that goes along with the prestige of the position is somehow elevated. And we can have that conversation with them and say, hey, so-and-so should not be penalized because of their military duty. So why don't you go ahead and give them a parking space or give them a company car, or whatever that perk of that, whatever perk is involved. We want to generally make sure that sometimes it is outright blatant discrimination where an employer will say, well, you're a reservist, so you're not really paying attention to our job. And we want to make sure that things like that, hopefully we're crossing fingers that there's witnesses, because in any investigation, it relies on the evidence. Whatever it is has to be proven. If it's in black and white in an email, that's the best, but sometimes it's just a conversation And if it's, she said, well then, that person may not admit to having said that in an interview. So we try, but the burden of evidence is still on the claimant, the person who is making the allegation. So hopefully things are in black and white. Black and white is the best. And multiple witnesses, like somebody is in a warehouse and there's an outburst and there's an argument and pointing fingers and your military is messing up our company and yada, yada, yada. And we get 5 witnesses that can say that. That is really easy to proceed with, but sometimes it's a quiet one-on-one conversation that just they won't admit to it. So in any case, USERRA follows you wherever you are. So it doesn't matter if it's new, you just got out last week, or if you served in the 1960s, it doesn't matter. There's no deadline to file. We've had people file claims from incidents that affect them 10, 20, 30 years ago. So there's not really a deadline. We look at the parts of the escalator concept is promotions or things that improve while you're gone, may also, things that are demotions, or maybe the company went out of business. So if you're filing a claim against an employer that's gone out of business, or they move their operations, to Timbuktu, we don't know, is there really a reason for you to file that claim in a reasonable expectation that they can accommodate you? If they move their operations from Nevada to West Virginia, did they offer you an opportunity to move to West Virginia? Okay, great. Then if they're closing around their shop in Nevada, then you don't want to move, then what can we do? So lots of different scenarios. I encourage you to actually file the claim, and then one of our investigators will reach out to you. But pretty fast, next day or day after, we get the claims in overnight, they get assigned, and we'll reach out to the claimants right away. So is there any questions about USERRA, employment, discrimination for military service, anything like that? This is a real brief, so.
Welcome everyone to once again type any questions that you have for David in the chat. With regard to, I think it was you answered my question as to the statute of limitations, as how far back that someone is able to submit a claim. And so thank you for that scenario or question. I think that allows you to see that. I mean, the most important thing I can take away from my knowledge about you, Sarah, is that you have advocates out there, and advocates where I think some folks who get a bad situation or scenario sometimes feel hopeless. What can I do? Reaching out to someone like David to have someone investigate on their behalf can be all the bit of difference that they need, because it's overwhelming to know where to start. So I guess my follow-up to that, David, for you would be, so we in San Diego have all these different pieces and options as to get connected, but should individuals look to primarily like their career centers or the America Jobs Centers, the AJCs for this, or AJCCs, career centers, or who should they be contacting if they were outside of San Diego? Because we know that if you're not familiar with David's crew, he's typically at the career center himself. So where is it that kind of on a national level they should get connected?
For claims on USERRA, before you file, I would encourage you to reach out to the organization, the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. And those are advocates. Usually they tend to be military retirees who have gone through training provided by the DoD so that they can kind of talk intelligently to the employers and kind of guide them or inform them of the law. So ESGR probably the first baby step, and that is a good place to start. If that doesn't work, then I would encourage you, instead of just calling or reaching out, there's the online application at our website, the Department of Labor Vets, and you scroll down through the program areas, and USERA is like the second link that you see under our programs. File a claim online, get it in, and then an investigator can start the clock. We have 90 days to finish it. So this isn't going to be something that is very long and involved. If we are about to go beyond the 90 days, then we'll ask you for permission to extend it. And you can say yes or no. Usually it's pretty reasonable why that things are not proceeding at 90 days, in which case I would encourage you, just start the clock, have somebody reach out to you the day after or the next to file that claim. And we can take claims from anywhere. You can do it for an employer. Like I have a claimant right now who's in West Virginia who filed a claim against a company that's in California. So it came to me, but it doesn't matter. You know, you are in whatever state you are, and we will do the work and make sure that we're lined up so that we can have that investigation complete.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for providing that overview. Apologies on the quick time frame. But I know that you have the vet slide up as well. Anything you want to hit home on this in particular?
Yeah, that's just a list of the different programs that we kind of operate under vets. You can see USERA's at the top. Then we do the Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program. So we give grants to nonprofits to help veterans experiencing homeless find jobs. Like I said, we talk about the Transition Assistance Program, a Hire Vets Medallion Program, encourages employers to hire veterans, but sometimes you have these, you know, here's a sticker for the front window. Well, the employers here are vetted, and it's not just something, you know, that will be gone in a year or two. Some of these marketing things for hiring veterans, the sticker on the window or the logo on their website may not have value, but the Hire Vets Medallion program has been around for a couple of years now, so we keep it going and keep encouraging employers to hire vets. Our Jobs for Vets state grant, that's where you talk about the vet reps in the career centers. So there are veterans who are hired for all 50 states and 4 territories to help veterans help other veterans find jobs. So they're like, you know, you find out when you're looking for work that it helps to know a guy or girl in the area. Well, that these people are the ones to know, because their sole job is to help you overcome your barriers and network with the employers that you would want to work with and get you an in. Okay. Yeah, it just helps. It helps to know somebody. So that's a good networking opportunity. And if you're not a veteran, if you're a spouse, you can go on the civilian side of those career centers and still get help. They have job developers who do the networking for you, and they have people who coach you through all the resume. I mean, it's nice to have on-base access right now, and you might have it for the rest of your life as a retiree and dependent. But if you don't have that as an option, the career centers are free and they're there in all the 50 states. We also do stand down. So if you're from San Diego and you're familiar with San Diego Stand Down, such a great program that we started putting a grant out to spread it across the country. So different stand downs around the country have a grant. And if you want to hold a stand down of your own, you're welcome to put in a grant to hold a stand down. I'll just let you know that VBSD kind of has a lockdown on San Diego, so you might want to choose a different locale if you're really into the stand down. But don't let that hold you back. You know, if you got something else, put in the application. Military spouses, we do. I think it was Michael from earlier in the day was talking about the licensing programs, and we help with the licensing reimbursement. So up to $1,000. So if you have to move to another state for that, then we'll help you get a reimbursement for that fee. And of course, we noticed on the map, and I looked at that map for Michael, and I was like, that's a DOL vets map. California is way off the radar on supporting the license interoperability between the states. So I'm glad to see that California is working on it. That'll be a really good thing to support. And the federal contractor reporting. Federal contractors are legally required to try and hire veterans. So when they reach out to you, Northrop, Lockheed, NASCO, whatever that, Qualcomm, if they got a federal contract, they're supposed to make an honest effort in trying to hire qualified veterans. So yes, they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, but they're also doing it because it's part of the contract and it's in the law. So we help keep them honest, and they report to us, us and our sister organization, the Office of Federal Contractor Compliance. So we're making sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do. And yeah, so that's pretty much most of our programs under vets. Anybody think of any USERRA questions while we were on that road? No?
Your questions are welcome. Just want to thank you, David, for providing the overview, especially with the vets, the different programs connected underneath. I had no idea about a lot of the different things that fall into your lap, so to speak. And so David's email address is definitely listed on the PowerPoint slide deck. If you have someone that in the future or in the past has mentioned anything that may fall under USERRA, he's your point person to reach out to get some information. And then obviously everything in the vets programs that are listed there, especially to kind of connect the dots with today. I didn't know about the military spouse licensing reimbursement program. So, I mean, please, if you as service providers aren't aware, think about those that you serve who, may have just transitioned into the area, don't really know what's around them. You're the best next piece to be a mouthpiece for these types of programs and services. So thank you again, David, for your time. And if you all do have questions, I want you to put those in the chat for him to answer. So I'm going to have one last speaker for you all to connect with on the day, and that is our friend Charles Laughlin from the Wounded Warrior Project. So Charles, would you be so kind to unmute and say hello?
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Daniel. Can you all hear me? Because I did get an unstable internet connection, of course, as we were going into the last few minutes. Everyone can hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we still can hear you. You're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, because I have an unstable connection going on.
No problem, Charles. If you do feel like you need to take the video down and just to use the chat, it'll use less bandwidth. So try that one.
Let's try it that way. You all can still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll try it without the video. So Daniel, again, thank you. And thank everybody for being on the call and such a wide breadth of wonderful information. And I've learned a lot of stuff today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Warriors to Work program with Wounded Warrior Project. And if you're not familiar with Wounded Warrior Project, we are a nonprofit organization that works with post 9/11 veterans and their family support members and assisting them in their transitions, either off of active duty or if they've been out for some time and have never really taken advantage of the resources and opportunities that are out there for veterans. We help to facilitate that as well. Specifically, I work with Warriors to Work. I'm a Warriors to Work specialist. Normally, it's my esteemed colleague, Santiago Leon, who's usually on, but he asked me to do this, so I'm going to do my best to pinch hit. I myself am an Air Force veteran, 24 years disabled vet. I retired back in 2013. And when you talk about transitions, I had a very difficult time transitioning socially and especially professionally, and looking for a job, essentially, and identifying what my passions were and translating my skill sets from what I did in the service to the civilian world. And I actually ran into a former, he's no longer with Wounded Warrior Project, but he was also a former boss of mine in the Air Force who showed me or introduced me to the Warriors to Work program, and they helped me transition into the professional workforce as far as the civilian world goes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how that transition went and or some of the elements of that transition. And then I'll talk about how people get involved with the Wounded Warrior Project. But basically what Warriors to Work does is, again, helps folks with that professional transition as far as workforce development, coaching, resume writing, mock interviews, all those different things. We can assist in work supplies as far as financial assistance in getting work supplies or professional attire. We help warriors identify employment opportunities and what that looks like as far as job leads goes. We also work with their family members, as sometimes the warriors, depending on what their physical situations are, may not be suited to work at that particular time. And maybe their family members are those that who actually support them are going out into the workplace and able to do that. We also help people with professional development and really getting them to network with events like this or meetings like this. Also hiring, veterans hiring events, career fairs, and things of those natures. And we really focus on employment engagement because it is a two-way street, not just getting warriors to recognize what type of employment opportunities are out there, but also building up that sufficient value in what their experiences and their skill sets are to employers. And I think that's really important. Oftentimes we run into that roadblock with employers that they either, quite frankly, want a poster child for their organization, or they want someone who is 110% trained up and totally understands what that civilian role plays. So we kind of bridge that gap a little bit in doing that. We also provide what we like to call a triage of services, because we're not just workforce development. When I'm talking to different warriors about their situations, I'm getting to know them personally as well. And as I'm getting to know them personally, I'm recognizing or identifying certain needs that they may have. I get warriors at least once or twice a week that are just really having a bad day. And sometimes we have to refer them to different services to help them get through. We get warriors who are in financial straits. Wounded Warrior Project has programs to assist or refer them for that. We get warriors who really probably are underrated by the VA as far as their disabilities, and we have services to help them increase their benefits as well. So we kind of do that triage approach. It's not just employment or workforce development, but it is really, as we like to say, to honor and empower the warriors through the different opportunities that we have. One of the challenges that we're running into, and I don't know if it's so much of a challenge or if it's really just a shift in paradigm with things going on as we've come out of this COVID year, we get several warriors that are no longer interested in working in a workplace. We often have those warriors that have a difficult time engaging to begin with. So now we have those that really just want to work remote. So we're finding ourselves having to really identify what that looks like, what those opportunities are out there, as there are some employers that are shifting lanes as far as remote work, or at least a hybrid of homework balance. We also recognize how important that is for our warriors as well. So those are some of the things that Warriors to Work really focuses on. And the steps to get in, I mean, you have to be, again, a member of Wounded Warrior Project. You have to be a post 9/11 veteran and honorably discharged with at least a 0% rating or a projected rating. So we do work with folks who are still on active duty, and they have started the process of going through their different appointments, and it looks like they'll most likely have a rating. We do work with people with that. And once you are approved as an alum in Wounded Warrior Project, and this also goes for the family support person, the spouse or a child or a cousin that could be working to help that warrior in their transition and get along. Once you have gone through that process, we have an introductory process to Warriors to Work, and there is a required screening, if you will, an introduction assessment and screening through our Warriors to Work coordinator. Then you're assigned to a specialist, which would be me. And once you're assigned to me, we sit down, we start to build out a plan. We lay out accountabilities and expectations of how often we engage. We constantly tweak the plan because things change, right? Depending on what that warrior circumstances are, what the job market is. It depends on all those several different things. So I've pretty much given you a very truncated version of Warriors to Work. I mean, there are several things that we're working on. Just to backtrack a little bit to what we were talking about with the changing paradigm and the shift in space, we're also looking at emerging careers. So one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is partnering with those different emerging careers, training programs. For instance, we have a partnership with a drone, unmanned drone training program where our warriors are getting certifications and flying drones remotely. As we see that paradigm shift in our society, that drones have become or are becoming very prevalent. So we are training warriors to do that and preparing them for that innovative next step as far as a career. We also have a partnership that I like to call it sort of tech evaluation, technology evaluators, where warriors are doing internships as video game testers that will ultimately lead to employment opportunities for them as well. So we really pride ourselves on not just identifying that lane of employment for our warriors, but also those cutting edge, innovative programs or occupations that we can get our warriors and family support members into as well. So with that, Daniel, are there any questions or comments? I'm certainly here for that and to answer anything you all have.
Yeah, just as a general reminder, you're welcome to utilize the chat in order to provide a question for Charles. And we will take a minute to see if you are able to provide him a question. I appreciate, Charles, you sharing about the kind of the innovative programs that you have and the trends that you're seeing in terms of the different pathways that are available, the technology ones in particular, as you know, time and space with a lot of the things happening during COVID-19 have allowed for remote work. I mean, I think a lot of folks know people who are very interested in video gaming and find that as a medium that they'd like to get involved with. But my one follow-up question to you would be, are there other trends that you're seeing in terms of employment post or, you know, during the current time frame that we're in with COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we're constantly, and that's probably slightly above my pay grade, but I will add that we are constantly looking at different industries that are trending. One of the things that I personally really work towards is really two things, and I failed to mention this. One is definitely entrepreneurship, as we're looking at the workplace shifting and different preferences or needs, and to have a certain work-life balance, or warriors not feeling like they're getting paid their worth. we are starting, and this is something relatively new in the Warrior Project, we are really starting to focus on providing warriors and family service members the tools to start their own business, as far as the education through small business administration and what SAMS is and how to do a business plan and identifying your market and all those different things. So we're starting to focus on that a little bit, because we're finding that quite a few warriors are coming out, and that's something that they are interested in. That kind of ties back into that drone program, where many of the warriors are looking to go into their own consultancy, working with real estate companies with drones, or working for security companies and things like that, or contracting with them. The other thing that I really am starting to see a trend in is different sustainability fields, solar installation and wind power and all those different things, as we're looking at a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that we're struggling to get through. But it's going to happen, some iteration at some point is going to happen. But I think our warriors are definitely best suited, or veterans in general are best suited, to really go into those different renewable energy or sustainability careers. And we're looking closely, at least here in San Diego, how can we partner with different organizations to get warriors in front of those different employers that are already in that space. I'm currently working to put together a committee with the San Diego Green Build Council for that specifically, is really getting warriors involved in that space of sustainability and renewable energy.
Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate the forward thinking that your team are all about. You know, there's ample opportunity. It's just a matter of having folks who are ready for this opportunity to get connected. So Charles, thank you for your time. I know we don't have any additional questions at this point, but once again, you'll find Charles's information, his email on the website that we'll put out there. So please circle back to Charles for any of your questions related to Wounded Warrior Project and the program that he is attached to. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Of course. All right. So I apologize. We are a little bit over today, so I'm going to try to hop through the final pieces of our program. So here goes. With regard to, here we go. Our SDMFC announcements, just want you to know that we have full operation swinging again in August. There's a lot that you can intersect with. If you haven't checked out our social media feeds, please do so. We have our Feel Good Friday segments in there, and we try to highlight different organizations. And if you're interested in being connected on that, then Mary, who's helping with technology, is the best point of contact to reach out to. When it comes to our action teams, we have a transition assistance action team for military spouses, which is called MTSC, Military Transition, the Spouse Edition. We have virtual workshops right now for those transition classes to kind of give them a mini TAPS, a mini TGPS, TRS type of a program. And that'll be happening in the evening in August. So August 17th, stay tuned. With regard to our What I Wish My Parents Knew, which are teen youth forums that we try to raise the teen voice. Those are once again in full swing. If you have interest in helping to kind of support as a community ally, we look for all community allies to help support youth with their messaging and help them raise and elevate topics that are tough to talk about with their parents and or community members like yourself. So please come and support whenever possible. August 26th will be that next date. And then as always, our convening falls on August 27th, which is always the fourth Friday of every month, 10:00 start time. We do our best to try to get you out at 11:30 whenever possible. And for those members only trainings, we'll be looking at the month of September to raise the next one. So I am going to just, if you have a brief 30-second community announcement, raise your hand. I'll call on you. But if we don't have anything further, I know Mary just dropped in the chat the survey link, or we'll do it again just in case you didn't see it. I see Wendy, you have a hand. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Hi, I just wanted to announce, since we were on the topic of employment, that FOCUS, which stands for Families Overcoming Under Stress, or a resilience training program, We have a couple of different jobs posted right now, and I'll go ahead and put the information in the chat, but I am hiring a full-time services coordinator at Naval Base San Diego. And at our Coronado location, we're hiring resilience trainers, and that's more of a master's level, like social work or behavioral health type position. And then at Camp Pendleton, there's also a services coordinator position being posted. That's more of a bachelor's level kind of administrative position. So if people are interested, oh, Alicia just posted it in the chat box there. You guys can check out at uclahealthcareers.org, and then you can search by job title or requisition number to get a little bit more information, or people can contact me directly if they're interested.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And as always, when you do have your announcements, we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable in sharing that information with us for our newsletters as well. So thank you, Wendy, for that. And Miss Griffin, would you like to go next?
Well, good afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. My name is Andrea Griffin. I'm with Vets Community Connections. I'm their Connections Coordinator. And we have a lot of new and exciting things going on at Vets Community Connections. We just launched today Careers in a Community video series, and one of them is showcasing the FBI, and they're going to have a hiring event next week. So I'd love to be able to share that link in the chat. Any other resources that veterans, military family needs, education, career, housing, I'm here and available and ready and excited to connect with anyone. In any resources, please feel free to send them my way. And it's great to meet you all. Great to be on this Zoom. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for making time for us today. Appreciate you sharing about what's
Happy
happening.
weekend. Have a great weekend.
Me too. Anyone else? Last minute shares? Okay, well, I'd like to once again thank our wonderful guest speakers who came out to share about what's happening in the world of employment a lot, if you didn't get, and that's why we had such a robust program today for you. So many of opportunities that are there. We'd love to make sure that you pay it forward and share this information with those that you're serving. And more importantly, you know, just make sure that you share it with your teams as well, so that they have the same information or background that you have now. And you can always redirect them to our wonderful Facebook page or YouTube channel that should have a copy of this recording following. But I just want to share one last one, which is on our upcoming convening, which will be on August 27th. And it's going to be titled Work in Progress, but it's more so to highlight the San Diego specific resources. And so if you know others that, you know, there's some national groups which are phenomenal, but we understand that in San Diego, there's really some really specific groups that you can only find here. So we want to raise their visibility. So if you know of them and want to suggest a few, please reach out to me or my team, as we would love for us to be able to connect with them. So we hope to see you again on Friday, August 27th, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you can do the the survey at the end, we'd appreciate it. But thanks again, speakers and audience, for staying on a little bit later. Have yourselves a great day.